Tens of meters tall giants are infinitely powerful. It is a tyrant, and it is the best biological weapon in the world today. Even in the face of armored vehicles slapped in the face, there is still the power of a war. Hello everyone, today let's watch a fantasy movie, Resident Evil, Curse. In the 20th century, the Soviet Union collapsed and many small countries declared independence. It was from this moment that a state called the East Slavic Republic was born. However, this small, newly independent country did not make its people happy. Some oligopolistic economies engage in politics. A puppet president was made, and as a result, the gap between rich and poor in the East Slavic Republic widened rapidly. Some people drive luxury cars, live in luxury houses, and spend a lot of money. Others went hungry for 6 meals in 3 days and did not have a single garment to wear. In the end, the poor people who couldn't stand it formed a rebellion. Preparations for the overthrow of the puppet president, that is, the beginning of the civil war in the East Slavic Republic on that day. However, the government forces were financially strong, well-equipped and heavily armed, and the rebels were pressed and beaten in the years-long exchanges that followed. Every year, it was about to be annihilated with heavy casualties, but it was thought that the East Slavic Republic was a civil war. Almost as the victory of the government forces ended, a terrifying monster suddenly appeared on the battlefield. The appearance of the monster made the outside world suspect that someone had used biological and chemical weapons for the first time, and the United States sent Agent Leon for this reason. Investigate in the East Slavic Republic and vowed to find out which side used it. Soon, according to the guidance of the headquarters, Leon found the connector and prepared to learn some key information from his mouth. But now that the connector was seriously injured and couldn't speak, for a while Leon was completely stunned and didn't know what to do next. Just as he hesitated, there was a strange noise behind him, and a monster named Liquor crawled out of the ground and crawled on the ground. This thing is agile, powerful, and fully defended, and the rifle in Liang's hand is not painful or itchy when it hits the Liquor. Originally, in the face of such a ferocious monster, Leon must have confessed, but who knew that this thing was just about to gnaw off his big and round head. An old man suddenly appeared and motioned for the Liquor to stop quickly, so that Leon could save his life. However, the killing just now also caused him to fall asleep due to physical exhaustion, and when he woke up again, he found that he was rebel. He was tied up in a basement and tortured, and the old man was actually an elder in the rebel army. It belongs to a very prestigious type of person. This person is powerful because he can control those agile monsters. Of course, there is a price to pay for gaining this ability, and the elder is able to control the Liquors in the war. That's a lot of parasites injected into the body, and when there are parasites in the human body, the monster will see the person as a more prestigious kind. Willing to be commanded at will, but when a person is injected with parasites, this thing will gradually invade the human brain along the spine, and the host will lose their mind and become a zombie-like walking corpse. Obviously, the elder's body is not as good as before, and he often can't stop coughing, and it is estimated that his corpse will be transformed soon. At present, there are 2 important figures in the rebel army by the elder's side, this tall man named Mike, who is the leader of the rebels. And Chubby, next to him, is Mike's best comrade in arms, and they kidnapped Leon. I just think that this kid may have some important information on him, otherwise, how could an American come all the way to this place? Maybe he will be kidnapped as a hostage, and he will be able to reap a lot of benefits in the follow-up negotiations with the government army. However, just as their wishful thinking took off, the terminally ill elder coughed louder and louder. It even alarmed the enemy outside the house, and followed the sound of dozens of heavily armed government troops. He rushed into the cellar and tried to kill them all, but he didn't think about the 3 rebels. It was an instant reversal of the situation and the killing of all the enemies, but since this place has been exposed, it can't stay for long. Mike and Chubby had planned to take the elder with them, but the man was now terminally ill and almost about to be transformed. Despite the heartache, all Mike could do was pull the trigger and kill him with a single shot. Now Mike and Chubby were planning to escape all the way back to the church headquarters along the secret passage in the cellar. In order to discuss with the brothers a battle plan to enter the presidential palace as soon as possible, and Leon is a very good kid. He had already broken free from his shackles and escaped in the chaotic moment of fierce fighting between the two sides just now, and now he was not prepared to have any more entanglements with the rebels. He wanted to get out of here as soon as possible to continue investigating the biological weapons, but he didn't expect to follow the secret passage all the way to the surface. But he accidentally ran into a little fat who was separated from Mike, and now this kid is hiding in the corner and shivering. It turns out that this tunnel is full of zombies, and these people were all Chubby's comrades in arms before the corpse transformation. In other words, he was afraid of the zombies and couldn't bear to fire at them, so he could only watch this thing get closer and closer to him. In the end, it was Leon who killed like crazy, and by the way, he saved this kid's life, so as to quickly return to the surface with him, and now Xiaopeng has trusted Leon very much. Not only was he willing to take it back to the rebel headquarters, but he even gave Leon his gun to save Mike. After all, this Mike is planning to attack the presidential building tomorrow, but the combat effectiveness of the resistance group is a bit stretched. In order to win this war, he was willing to sacrifice himself, and he also wanted to inject parasites into his body like the previous elders, thus being able to control monsters, but the cost of controlling monsters is not small. At most, Mike will lose his mind and become a zombie, and Chubby and Mike are friends who have known each other for more than 10 years. He couldn't bear to watch the other party die like this, so he asked Leon to hope that he could get those parasites before Mike. However, although Leon hurried to hurry, he was still a step too late when he arrived at the place that Chubby said. The potion had long since been taken away by Mike, and there was only an empty box on the ground, but Leon had not run in vain. Here he met an old friend, King Ada, who had come to investigate more clues about biological weapons. However, Ida Wang's investigation focused on government forces, and she approached the president as soon as she arrived posing as a special investigator for the United Nations. I hope to find out whether the government of the East Slavic Republic is secretly researching chemical weapons. As a result, the president found out his identity, and the two of them made a mess in the office on the spot, and it is worth mentioning that this president has served before. The instructor of the special forces is very skilled, and he subdued King Ida with a few tricks. However, just as the president was complacent, the alarm went off outside the house, and when he looked closely, it turned out that it was Mike who had killed countless lickers. Obviously, the bullets of the soldiers were very difficult to injure the monster at all, and there was no piece of armor left behind after a while. The president had no choice but to lower the security door in his office urgently, turning it into an extremely safe elevator and taking it all the way underground. I was going to use the secret weapon here to fight back, but now Mike and King Ida have already arrived here. The two of them were shocked to find out that the secret weapon of the government army turned out to be a parasite, as long as they injected this thing into their bodies. Was able to control an even more powerful monster tyrant, and now seeing that the situation was not good, the president immediately hid behind a safe house. Controlling several tyrants to kill, this monster is tens of meters tall and powerful. The round of lethality and defense was far above the liquor, which was not enough for Mike to then kill underground. Only then did he discover that the liquor, who had been so proud of him, was as brittle as an ant in front of the tyrant. Almost one punch at a time, they were easily dealt with, and it was obvious that they had no chance of winning against Mike, a terrifying monster like the tyrant. The only thing he could do was to clamp his tail and slip quickly, and immediately got into the elevator and escaped to the surface. But the president hated the rebels to the core, so she manipulated the tyrant to chase to the surface. Preparing to hammer Mike and Leon into mud, Mike originally wanted to manipulate his liquors to fight back. As a result, he was pressed to the ground by the tyrant and hammered, and seeing that his companion died too miserably, there was a liquor who chose to escape. As a result, he didn't run 2 steps before he was chased by the tyrant and smashed on the tanker truck with a punch, and now he saw that the tank was broken and the oil was bubbling up. Liangna, who was hiding on the side, seized the opportunity to shoot wildly and blew up the car on the spot. I thought that such a huge power would kill the tyrant on the spot, but after being scorched by the flames, not only did it not die. On the contrary, it has completely evolved and become more powerful as a whole, and at this moment, the tyrant retreats from his hands and tears up several missiles, and he can teleport to Liang's eyes and press them against the wall. Mike, who saw that Leon was about to detect something wrong, beckoned his cannibals to attack the tyrant, and drove straight towards the tyrant in an armored car parked on the side of the road. But after all, he still underestimated the power of this monster, and the tyrant was able to lift the armored car directly with his bare hands. Fortunately, when the car was about to be overturned, Leon hurriedly sat in the car and turned the battery. A shot knocked the tyrant's head off and killed him on the spot, thinking that with this thrilling victory, the two were finally saved. It's just that just when they were about to breathe a sigh of relief, they found that 2 full-fledged tyrants rushed out of the presidential palace. It took a lot of effort to kill one of these things, and now the 2 of them are coming out again, so it's not necessarily cold, just when the disheartened Leon and Mike are ready to sit on the ground and wait for death. The sky suddenly flew over the fighter plane, directly bombing these 2 monsters into slag on the spot. It turned out that the United States and Russia saw that the government of the East Slavic Republic was gone, so they began to join forces on the battlefield. Immediately after they expelled the plutocratic oligarchs headed by the president, they formed a provisional government to divide the fruits of victory. Of course, when Mike saw the president overthrown, he finally felt at ease. Now he is deeply infiltrated by the parasite, it is getting weaker, and he coughs. Soon to lose his life, Mike's only wish at the moment is that Leon can kill himself as soon as possible. However, injecting the parasite into the body is not the only way to die. Because the parasite infects a person's spine first and then goes to the brain, now Leon fired a shot. Breaks Mike's spine so that the parasites can no longer invade his brain, allowing Mike to survive, but the spine breaks. This means that Mike has been paralyzed and has been confined to a wheelchair ever since, but now even he can no longer stand up. The corners of his mouth are also smiling. After all, what is more important than a small life?